Hello, everybody. My name is Nuno Sepúlveda, and I'm an assistant professor in biostatistics from the Warsaw University of Technology. I'm also a long-standing collaborator of the Center of Statistics and Applications of University of Lisbon. Today, I will talk about Ikigai, a Japanese concept to achieve a joyful and effective career as a statistician. But before I start, I would like to thank the conference organizers, especially Alexander Schacht, for giving me the opportunity to present this little pet story of mine. Some of you might have heard about Ikigai through this famous Venn diagram, where this Japanese concept is viewed as the intersection between what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs. Today, I'm going to bring into your consideration a more down-to-earth definition of what Ikigai is. My first contact with Ikigai was more than a decade ago through a YouTube video in which Dan Buettner talked about the so-called blue zones in one of the TED conferences. Blue zones are actually regions in the world where people tend to live exceptionally long. At that time, Dan Buettner and his team from the National Geographic identified 5 blue zones in the world: Loma Linda in the United States, Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica, the island of Sardinia in Italy, the island of Icaria in Greece, and finally, Okinawa in Japan. More recently, Singapore was considered the 6th blue zone. In his talk, Dan Buettner distilled the factors that seem to contribute to the high longevity of these people. These factors could be placed in 4 main categories: physical activity, social life, eating habits, and mindset. With respect to physical activity, people living in these blue zones move naturally in their daily lives, without the need of going to the gym as most of Westerners do. Concerning social life, these people prioritize their time with their loved ones. They have a strong sense of community, and they feel they belong to the right tribe. These people drink some alcohol, especially wine in the case of the 2 zones in the Mediterranean. They have a very rich plant-based diet, and they have tricks to avoid overeating, such as the 80% rule, in which people should stop eating whenever they feel 80% full. Finally, people from the blue zones seem to have the right mindset by giving themselves the time to chill out and by having a strong purpose in life. It was when Dan spoke about the purpose in life that I heard for the first time the word Ikigai, used often by the Okinawans. Sometime later, I was strolling in a famous bookshop in central London, and I came across with a little book of Ikigai written by Ken Mogi, a famous Japanese neuroscientist. I got curious and I bought the book, and of course I read it immediately. And I really enjoyed it because it seemed a book showing the Japanese perception of the world in the daily life. So what is Ikigai? The literal translation from Japanese is the reason or reasons by which we get up in the morning. According to Ken Mogi, Ikigai sets its foundations in 5 pillars: starting small, releasing your ego, harmony and sustainability, the joy of little things, and finally, being in the here and now. After reading these pillars, I found myself analyzing my career and asking myself whether the pillars were present in my daily life as an academic and a scientist. So, in the next slides, I will explore each pillar in my own career. Let's begin with starting small. I think this pillar is at the basis of our education system, in which we first learn simple concepts, and then we learn more complex concepts over time. The advantage of starting small is that it gives us time not only to learn the concept themselves, but how they relate to each other. When you already master the concepts and their relationship, You can then propose revision of the concepts, propose new relationships, and even propose new concepts that will connect with the existing ones. As an academic and as a scientist, I use this pillar all the time, especially when I navigate to other research fields that I'm not so familiar with. What about releasing your ego? To explore this pillar, I consider two situations, positive and negative. The positive one is related to execution of tasks in which you can achieve flow. Flow is exactly a state of mind in which you are so fully engaged in a given activity that seems anything else exists. You seem to belong to the task and not the other way around. As a passionate statistician and scientist, I usually achieve flow whenever I'm analyzing data or writing a paper with my latest findings. The negative situation comes in the form of criticism or rejection. This situation is often at the heart of the peer review process before the publication of a paper. So, releasing your ego in this situation is accepting that constructive criticism is about the content and not about the person. Accepting criticism also frees you to seize the opportunity of learning a new point of view or another way of doing things. Let's now talk about harmony and sustainability. In this regard, I see harmony as the ability to work well in a collaborative environment. We cannot forget that R&D is too complex to be done by a single individual. Therefore, commercial and scientific projects tend to aggregate people with different technical competence and different personalities. Given that statistics and data science are at the heart of many disciplines, the pillar of harmony is an essential aspect of a career of a statistician or a data scientist. From my own experience in science, it's easier to find harmony by choosing the colleagues and collaborators who share the same values and principles. My advice is then to try to find your right tribe in science and in industry. I also see harmony as the ability to work with others, even in disagreement with them. This type of harmony is sometimes tricky to achieve because of our own ego. A trick that I borrow from the clinical psychologist Jordan P. Peterson is to assume other people have something worth listening to. In the case of sustainability, the main question is to know how to keep enjoying your work over the years. My personal answer to this question is actually the joy of contributing to something bigger than myself, irrespective of its importance. As such, I consider that small contributions are as important as big ones. The next pillar is the joy of little things. I think it's intimately related to paying attention to details. These details could come in the form of creating the right figure or table to convey a certain message. It could also come in the form of writing the right sentence in a paper or a report. I think these points are very important because they are essential to communicate our ideas well. And if our ideas are not well understood by others, then we can never be an effective statistician. In general, paying attention to details is also very important because it allows you to understand the data better, to understand the pros and cons of a given method, or to understand the strengths and the weaknesses of a given scientific paper. The fifth and final pillar is the being in the here and now. In its essence, it's all about enjoying the moment. The basic idea is to minimize distraction in order to maximize focus. If you maximize focus, you're able to achieve flow quicker and more frequently. In the end, you become more efficient at work. If you maximize focus, you also become more able to pay attention to details, thus increasing your work quality. The combination of both work efficiency and work quality is for me what it means to be an effective statistician. Of course, all of this is easier said than done, given the modern era of cell phones, constant stream of emails in your inbox, and social media notifications. In this scenario, I think you should find the best strategy for you to be in here and now. My usual strategy is to avoid having my cell phone with me while I'm working. I also use social media for professional purposes only. So before I finish, I would like to give you an example from my current research. In the last decade, I got interested in the myalgic encephalomyelitis chronic fatigue syndrome, known by the acronym ME/CFS. I got interested in this disease because its pathogenesis seems related to an immunological dysfunction, one of the topics of my PhD. Probably you already heard about this disease in the context of long COVID, because many of the long COVID sufferers actually comply with the case definition of ME/CFS. Nowadays, I do active research on both ME/CFS and long COVID, even if my academic background is on mathematics and statistics. How did I achieve to do the research on this disease? I'll try to answer this question with the 5 pillars of Ikigai. First, I started small by helping others with their statistical analysis and helping them to design a study. I released my ego with the idea of learning from more experienced researchers than myself. I considered myself as a little ant in a world of ME/CFS turning around for many decades. I also had the opportunity to work with clinical teams and to participate in a European network on ME/CFS. I also engage with patients and their associations. By collaborating harmoniously with all these people, I created for myself an environment and community that could sustain my research over the years. A very important point of my research was paying attention to details of published studies. Paying attention to these details allowed me to find a strong rationale to request published data to other researchers in order to understand whether more information could be extracted from that data. Finally, I had my feet well placed on the ground, and so for being in the here and now, I simply thought to conduct high-quality research with current data, irrespective of the impact. In summary, I've discussed the concept of Ikigai, and I hope you can use this knowledge in your professional life. I believe you can increase your career satisfaction and career motivation by integrating the 5 pillars of Ikigai. Thank you all for listening, and I'll be very pleased to take questions from you.